Robert Taylor. And then Mary Norrie. Mary Norrie. I got you. These are not speaking.
All right, good morning, everybody. I've officially gotten the green light, so I would like to call to order the meeting of the Escambia County Planning Board for April 4th, 2023 is hereby called to order with, let's see, what we got? 5 voting members present, and we've also got another non-voting member here as well. We do have a quorum. If we could, please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all. Well, first, we'd like to welcome back Tim Powell to the Planning Board, serving now as an at-large member, and so good to see you back at the table with us, and we'll go ahead and get him sworn in at this time.
Please raise your right hand. Do you, Tim Powell, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and the government of the United States and of the state of Florida, and that you are duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that you will faithfully perform the duties as an Escambia County Planning Board member, so help you God?
I will.
Thank you.
All right. All right, do we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir.
Did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, sir.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to waive the reading of the legal advertisement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Reed, second by Eric. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. The Planning Board meeting minutes for March 7th, 2023 has previously been provided to the board members. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the Planning Board meeting minutes into evidence. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Reed and a second by William. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, the motion passes. The Planning Board hearing package for April 4th, 2023 has previously been provided to the board members. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the Planning Board hearing package and the legal advertisement into evidence. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, this time we will go into our public hearings. We have our first public hearing concerning the review of an ordinance amending the future land use map, SSA 2023-03, that the board review and recommend to the Board of County Commissioners for an adoption an ordinance amending the future land use flu map for a small scale amendment, SSA 2023-03. All right, I'll turn it over to staff for a presentation.
All right, John Fisher, Senior Planner, Escambia County Development Services Department. So for SSA 2023-03, this is the wetlands and location map that we're looking at, the end of 9th Avenue, this parcel sitting there. This is the zoning map for the location. It's currently zoned to MDR. And this is the future land use map as it exists now as MUU, mixed use urban. This is the proposed future land use map to public. This is showing the aerial map. This is just zoomed out a little bit more, showing the aerial map. You can see there's residential around multiple sides and Ellison Field to the west. This is showing the public hearing signs. This is the public hearing signs looking north onto the subject property. This is looking northeast onto the subject property as well. You can see the building in the back there to the right. This is looking east at the end of 9th Avenue. This is looking south along 9th Avenue. And this is looking northwest from the end of 9th Avenue. And that's all the photography we had now for the start the presentation.
All right, at this time, I guess, shall we go into the staff analysis and then we'll have comments from the public?
Yeah. So this is a little different type of procedure due to Escambia County is obviously the property owner and doing this. So on behalf of Escambia County Development Services, John Fisher, I'll be presenting the staff analysis. All right. So the request is from mixed use urban to public for a 4.07 plus or minus acre property. Under mixed use urban, the future land use intent is for intense mix or residential, non-residential uses while promoting compatible infill development and the separation of urban and suburban land uses within the category as a whole. Is that a little better? Under the public, the proposed public provides for uses or facilities owned or managed by the federal, state, or county-owned or other public institutions or agencies. Public has no future land use, allows no density for that type of property zoning. Going over each section here, I'll go over the headings here, then the analysis. Under general amendment conditions, the need and benefit. Under the analysis, a conversion to public would provide a correct future land use zoning for the use of a public services and public structures to allow the county to develop the site for any future uses that are related to government or other public institutions or agencies. Under professional practices, the existing future land use for the area mixed use urban to public would still allow for the public services and public structures while providing more flexibility for government, other public institutions, or agencies' use. Under the future land use amendment conditions, the analysis, this is a proposed amendment complies with all three conditions established by Florida State Statute 163 for the adoption of any small-scale comprehensive plan. Keeps cutting in and out. Under housing, the proposed public future land use would be a suitable replacement for the existing future land use category as it would decrease the density that is currently allowed by the current future land use, mixed use urban. Under the future land use use map designation, the future land use category in the area mixed use urban, which supports a mix of residential and non-residential development, the change to public would not change the area characteristics while allowing the existing building to be refurbished to public structure and service to become conforming and allowing for government uses in a central location in urban environment. Under infrastructure, the Escambia County maps include documentation of general availability of infrastructure by Emerald Coast utility authorities. You have portable water, sanitary sewer, solid waste. All right, try that again. Under sanitary sewer and solid disposal waste analysis, Emerald Coast Authority provides portable water distribution and solid waste collections and disposal for subject parcel. Sanitary sewer collection and treatment will be via a septic tank. Under stormwater and transportation analysis, the analysis from TTO, the Transportation Department, has reviewed the small-scale map amendment, North 9th Avenue, mixed-use urban to public, on the agenda item for the planning board meeting scheduled for today, April 4th. The subject parcel is at extreme north end of the North 9th Avenue, which is two-lane facility featuring a sidewalk on the west side from Johnson northward terminating at the very end, approximately 470 feet south of the north terminus of 9th. The travel lanes are approximately 11 feet wide and swell drainage on both sides of the road. The county does not have any proposed roadway improvement projects scheduled for 9th Avenue in the vicinity of the subject parcel. This section of 9th Avenue is a neighborhood street and is assumed to less than 3,000 cars per day. East Johnson Avenue, approximately 1,900 feet to the south, is a functional classification as a major collector urban roadway with FDOT 2021 volume of 5,400 average daily traffic trips. The TTO has no traffic capacity concerns related to North 9th Avenue nor East Johnson Avenue. Please note that TTO review is solely based on the rezoning application submittal package, so the comments above hold no bearing on the TTO comments made during the development review process. Under project resources, wellheads, the subject parcel is outside of any wellhead protection area based on the Escambia County GIS. Under historical site significance, the property is currently developed as a vacant commercial building that Escambia County has purchased to become a community center. Prior to the future development order, a historical analysis and site-specific survey must be completed. Under wetlands and habitats and urban forests, there are no indication of any national wetland inventory map or any wetlands. If any protected trees are located for the future new development, they will be analyzed for compliance with all applicable environmental regulations prior to issuance of any development plan approval or development order. And that includes staff's findings.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions of staff at this time? No? All right, we've got 3 public speakers here. And our first one is Robin Becker. And, good morning. Yes, and if you'll just come up and state your name and address for the record. And then you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
All right, my name is Robin Becker. My address is 4311 Burtonwood Drive, and the proposed is right in my backyard. Oh, it's not on.
Oh, sorry, I'll get you, can I get you to say that one more time?
The whole thing?
Yeah, we'll restart your time
Okay.
for you. My bad. I didn't see that the mic was off.
My name is Robin Becker. My address is 4311 Burtonwood Drive, and the proposed changes on the end of 9th Avenue are right in my backyard. One of the reasons we purchased that house is because it was quiet, and it is concerning that the board is looking at changing how the neighborhood is going to be structured. And my concern would be for the additional traffic at the back on 9th Ave. Also, just the change in the neighborhood, because it is quiet. And if it is going to like a mixed density use, or I would be interested to know what kind of structures they're proposing to put back there. Because like a community center, okay, what kind of events are going to be hosted at the community center? What is the traffic increase? Just things like that. Because it just changes the whole dynamic. So, just interested to know what the proposal actually is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, we've got James Trad. If you'll come up and state your name and address for the record, and then your 3 minutes to speak will start.
Okay, my name is James Trad. I'm at 4311 Burtonwood. I am directly behind the property that you intend to rezone. I have a few comments here. First of all, the land was donated to the university under the assumption that it would not be rezoned to public. You mentioned the public use of the property, and without stating any specific intentions of what you want to use it for. As a public use property, you could turn this into a halfway house. And that's not acceptable in our neighborhood. The neighborhood doesn't want the traffic. They don't want to park. They want to keep it as it is zoned today. The owner of the property that donated it certainly does not want it to be a public use property. You're inviting riffraff into our neighborhood, whether you turn it into a park, a community center, a halfway house. You're not giving any specific reason for the use of the land. It harbors a bunch of live oaks, which may have to be torn down for your basketball hoops or whatnot, parking. It's just a shame. Also, I do believe you tried to do this in the past and rezone this property, and it failed because the community does not want it public. The original intent from the donor to the university was to keep it a zone the way it is. If you want to use the land, what the community would like to see is you sell it to a private residence for them to put $1 million house up on the land, instead of trashing the neighborhood with some public land use. That's all I have to say, other than I'll be collecting signatures to block the motion of public. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, our next speaker is Jeff Miser. You're good. You're gonna not pass. All right, sounds good. All right, that was all the speakers we had for this case. Does the board have any questions of staff at this time?
Just out of curiosity, I think I heard the proposal was a community center. Can you explain a little bit further what y'all's intentions are?
Horace Jones, Director for Development Service Department. Yes, that is the proposal. That is the proposal to use the existing building. There are no new buildings or no new structures that are being proposed at this time, to use the existing building for that purpose. For that purpose. Again, with this is not a rezoning. This is the future land use change for the record, they can understand the process going forward. But that is the intention of the BCC, for this to be used as a community center. That's why the future land use change is presented at this time, and the rezoning will proceed at the next proceedings.
Mr. Chair, I just would ask Mr. Fisher or Horace about the history of the ownership, and as it was addressed by the public speaker, I'm just curious about that and what appears to me somewhat of a downzoning is what it appears to me, but it seems to be in contrast with the former speaker. I just wanted, if you guys would speak to who was the owner. Is it the county?
The county is the owner. They did, and they are aware of all of those issues regarding the previous owner. Those things have been looked at. with our legal department. So I am not privy to all of those discussions because that's not my area of expertise. But those issues has been looked at by our county, and those issues have been addressed.
Question for staff. There's a slender triangular parcel west that's still yellow but not highlighted in blue, so I assume not a part of this parcel. Who do we know anything about that? Is that a buffer owned by the county? Is it private property?
That's actually, sorry, that little yellow area, that is as part of a mixed-use map area. That is actually not a parcel. The parcels are in black. So when you see that highlighted with blue, and so we actually probably switch to a different map. Yeah, right there.
Is it a lot of record? It's a lot.
The future land use maps were not parcel based at the time they came out, so they were just kind of drawn in. So that's the overlap. What you see there are actual just the parcels. There is no triangle parcel there. The parcels all to the west, we do own this, the stormwater pond area.
I guess, you know, again, going back to the speakers. It's on. Hello. All right, going back to the speakers and their concerns, traffic and such, what's the, who's the push to put a community center back here? What's the need from the community to have a community center? Can you just expand a little bit on that for us?
Mr. Rushing, again, respectfully, I was not part of all of those discussions, but I do know that this came from the office of this district, and they are quite aware of that. That was the intention. Again, this has to be approved by the BCC. But it does come from that particular office. So if there's any questions concerning that, they definitely can reach out to that Pacific office to discuss this small scale, not the rezoning, but the small scale. But I just wasn't privileged to all of those discussions on that part. Now, as far as the traffic, those things will be looked at wholeheartedly. As a matter of fact, the county, along with our engineering department, we are currently looking at all of those issues at this time wholeheartedly. So there will be another process if it is approved, so that we'll make sure that we look at the traffic and the impacts, and if there's stormwater issues, the county is definitely looking at those things even now, definitely.
Mr. Jones, and I'm sorry, if you want to speak, we'll have to have you fill out a form, and we'll get you up here. So I know you've got your hand raised, and
I had a form and I had 1 minute left of my speaking time. Can I use that?
you've utilized your time. So at this time, it's just going to be for anybody that hasn't signed up yet. So I apologize.
It's a quick comment. He hasn't really answered your question.
Okay.
And,
So
and let me,
He doesn't have enough
okay,
information
I
about what's going on.
yeah, and
Sir.
let me ask a question, and I think I'll clarify some issues, or make a statement. This, of course, is just one part of the process. This is the small scale. Next is going to be the rezoning. The long and the short of it is there's a lot of questions on why the BCC or a commissioner is asking for this to happen. We're not privy to that information. We don't know necessarily why things happen. It's just, does it fit the requirements and does it fit the rules of making these changes? That's what we vote on. If you do have questions, talk to your commissioners, especially the commissioners in this district, to ask for whys and stuff, get a little more clarification. They'll have that information. We do not have that information, nor does the staff.
So you're voting on something you don't
At this time, we're voting on a small-scale flu amendment that the staff has prepared a case for, that we heard their findings of fact on. They have certain requirements that must be met on their end, whether it's a county-owned property or we've got, private property owners that come in here and do this as well. And so the staff has made their case to how they've met those requirements, and then it's our decision to see if for this specific question of a flu amendment change, if we think it's enough evidence to move forward or not. I do have one question, Horace. Has this as alluded to earlier, been brought before the planning board previously as a flu amendment or rezoning case of this property?
Not to our knowledge.
Okay. So, does anybody else have any questions or,
Mr.
sir?
Speaker, real quick, I wanted to knock the dust off of my memory here. The small scale amendment is done so that kind of pave the way for continuity with the rezoning case, correct? And as far as I see it, for the folks in the county owns it, and this is by all purposes a downzoning. It's allowing less of an intense use than what could be utilized today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Now, it's just simply, I think what the ire maybe brought up is that something actually may be done, because nothing's been done. Even though you have the ability to do it right now, from what it gathers, I think this is more of a, it's not paperwork, it's basically keeping it in line with the future land use as well as the potential rezoning. If I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, I gotta remember this, but
You're right, Mr. Brown.
but it does appear to be, like I said, a downzoning from what would be certainly allowable today. The only thing I'm aggravated, I hope you do use sewage as opposed to septic, but that's something for future. And to the point of the speaker and Reed, Mr. Rushing, is that the actual details of what the need is, that would certainly be taken up with your county commissioner, because obviously there's a push for it to get to this point, I would expect. So.
Yes.
All right, we did have another speaker sign up. I've got Kevin Henderson, if you'll come to the mic and just say your name and address for the record. If we're gonna have both of you speak, with just two forms. It's okay. All right, and just if you'll say your name and address for the record.
Yes, good morning, Demetra Henderson, 4320 Burtonwood Drive. I am concerned because I've been a homeowner there since November of '94. Actually, the church owned the property at the time when we purchased the home. If you take the fence down, you walk right from my backyard into that church area. That's what it was before. The concern that I have is that if they're going to say a community center, it sounds great, but I know there's more to it than just the community center to kind of make it, I want to say, dress it up. But if it's for the homeless, that's something that the neighborhood will be against, because then we'd like to state it would be traffic. The traffic area there would not be good. And then I don't know if you guys saw, before you go into the church grounds, there's an open area there. My concern is next would be panhandlers there, be hanging out in that area. That is the biggest concern as well, because there's homeowners also at the end of Johnson will be concerned with that opening there as well. We were also, it's a very tight-knit neighborhood there. Everyone works together very strongly there, keeping the community the way it is now. Also, there's other two subdivisions, if I'm not mistaken. We all come together as one, as the neighborhood watch. They tour the neighborhood normally every night, throughout the day as well. If they have any concerns, they also will notify the homeowners, anything around the suspicious of their home, which we normally don't have that as well. We want to keep it that way, keep the value of our homes, keep the families safe. In that subdivision, there's homeowners that's been there prior to me moving there. They're elderly, and for their safety as well. Some of them still live alone, of course, but that would be the biggest concern, the value of the home, and not only that, the safety as well. We don't want to take that away because we're right off of Scenic Highway. We want to keep the value of those homes, and they're very good homes there. and everyone gets along and everyone works together there. So if you guys can take that into consideration, that would be greatly appreciated. Again, we do not want the traffic that's not good traffic there.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson, if it may, if
Yes, sir.
first of all, I want to thank the community for having a homeowner association. That's a good thing. We want you to please stay in the loop, stay informed. If this is approved by the Board of County Commissioners, you will be the most, your group could really make sure that it is policed very, very well, whatever the decision that is going to be. But I can say again, as noted, it is going to be a community center. A community center. It's not going to be no homeless shelter at all. This is going to be a community center. The proposal is to use the existing building. There will be other reviews in regards to the traffic. Our engineering department, our access management, they are aware of all of those things. They are aware of the beautiful trees that's out there. So we are aware of all of those things. It is the county's position that wherever modifications or alterations or renovations that is done on the building to have as least of an impact on the community. I cannot speak for the commissioner of that district, but I do know that they are aware of everything that's around there, of the homes and everything. So if this is approved, the intention is greatly to have at least the least amount of impact to that community and the surrounding areas. Again, the community, please stay informed. You are the best police to help Escambia County do our job efficiently and effectively.
Thank you, Horace. And just as a reminder, this is for the future land use. The actual rezoning hearing for this will be after we get through these land use cases. So again, we will be speaking for a rezoning case on this property in this next meeting. And so you will have an opportunity to speak again on that case, and you will need to speak at that meeting on that rezoning portion to go speak in front of the county commissioners as well. So just, this isn't, there's another opportunity to speak on this property. All right, is there any further discussion from the board or any other questions? No, sir, but you could speak at the rezoning hearing for case, just so for your purposes, case Z 2023-05. Okay. Z-2023-05. Yes, sir. All right, any further questions or discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll go into our next case, public hearing concerning the review of an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Policy Flu 1-1-1 and Flu 5-1 to provide an amendment to the 2030 future land use map named LSA-2023-01. And I know we've got folks leaving. We will be speaking on the previous address. And if you do want to speak to the county commissioners, you will need to speak at that case as well. Okay. All right. So that the board review and recommend to the Board of County Commissioners for transmittal to DEO an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan, Chapter 7, 2030 flu map for the specific three parcels 02-3N-31-1000-014-001 and 02-3N-31-1000-015-001 and 15-3N-31-1000-000, requesting to change the existing flume designation from agricultural to rural community of 349.24 plus or minus acres. All right, do we have a presentation from staff?
Good morning, Allison Lindsay, Development Services, Urban Planner. This is the location map showing the 3 parcels. This is the 500-foot zoning radius map showing the zoning of agricultural. This is the current future land use map of agricultural, and this is the proposed future land use for RC, rural community. This is the wetlands map. And this is an aerial view of the subject parcels. And this is the public hearing sign that's posted at the corner of Highway 29 and Barth. This is looking west from Barth and 29. Looking south along Highway 29 from Barth and 29. This is looking east along Barth. This is the public hearing sign that was posted at the intersection of Cotton Lake and Highway 29. Looking north at the portion of the property on Cotton Lake and Highway 29. Looking west across Highway 29 at the intersection of Cotton Lake and 29. This is the public hearing sign that was posted on Cotton Lake Road. This is looking north of a portion of the site from Cotton Lake. And this is looking south from the subject property across Cotton Lake Road. This is looking east on Cotton Lake and looking west along Cotton Lake. This is the public hearing sign that was posted on Pine Barren and 29. Looking across Highway 29 and Pine Barren. Looking south along Highway 29 from the northernmost of the properties on Pine Barren and 29. This is looking, the northern property looking east down Pine Barren. Looking northwest from Pine Barren and Highway 29. And that's all the maps and photographies.
All right. At this time, I see we've got the applicant is here, Susan Salomon. Was there anything that you would wanted to say about your case or application for the flu amendment change?
Yes, good morning. Susan Salomon, 501 Comandancia Street. The applicant's requesting a change from the current designation of agriculture to rural community. At this time, the property was being farmed for timberland. That is no longer appropriate. The farmland is not prime farmland, and the proposed development will be a minimum of 4-acre parcels. There are 349 acres that we are asking to change the future land use designation. So that would be approximately 87 lots that the developer would be putting custom homes on. The minimum is 4 acres per lot, but in speaking with my client, they are averaging about 7 to 8 acres per lot, so it will still be very rural, will not be intense, will not require any urban or suburban infrastructure to create this proposed development. And while the designation of rural community does allow for 2 dwelling units per acre, that is not something that is even going to be contemplated by the developer, as they really want to keep it a rural community.
Thank you. Any questions from board members at this time? All right. Thanks so much. If we got any questions, we'll ask to get you back up here. Did staff want to go through their analysis of the project?
Yes, sir. Okay, so the subject parcels are zoned agricultural, and it'd be, the future land use is agricultural, and they also are requesting a rezoning from agricultural to rural residential. The parcel will be accessed from Highway 29, Century Boulevard, Cotton Lake Road, and also Pine Barren. The analysis of the existing availability of facilities and services. The county reached out to the ECUA, Emerald Coast Utilities Authority, regarding sewer availability, and they stated that Quintet Road is the northernmost extent of their sewer system connection point. And the applicant stated that the subject parcel will be using septic tanks to service the proposed residential development, and the health department will also have to review and approve the septics. Once the project is submitted, all the level of service will have to be achieved, and the project will go further evaluated during the development review process. For solid waste, the Perdita landfill will be where the solid waste will be contained. Their current build-out, is 424 acres. And based on the population growth, the estimated annual Class 1 municipal solid waste received, the remaining life of landfill is approximately 68 years. But once the project is submitted, it will be reviewed during the site plan process. Potable water service. The area is serviced by Molino Utilities, who provided information that the parcels are close to one of their well sites with a water line which runs along Highway 29, and the developer intends to tie into the existing water in coordination with the Molino Water. For stormwater, the applicant must ensure that all the required state and federal agencies are contacted and that the required permits are obtained. Compliance with the adopted stormwater management provisions that implement these policies would be reviewed and confirmed prior to any development approval. For the streets, the Traffic and Transportation Department has reviewed, and they have made comments stating that the subject parcels are undeveloped and have access directly on Highway 29, North Barth and Cotton Lake Road. North Barth and Cotton Lake Road are both narrow, two-lane facilities without paved shoulders in the vicinity of the subject parcels. The travel lanes are approximately 10 feet wide. The right-of-way of these roads are most likely prescriptive and under 50 feet wide. U.S. Highway 29 in vicinity of the subject parcel is a 4-lane facility with 12-foot travel lanes and an outside paved shoulder. The intersection of Highway 29 and Cotton Lake Road have a northbound right turn deceleration taper and a full left turn lane southbound. The intersection of Highway 29 and Barth Road is a northbound right turn lane and no southbound left turn lane. The county does not have any proposed improvement projects scheduled for Cotton Lake or North Barth. The Florida Department of Transportation has a resurfacing project for Highway 29 along the subject parcel in the current 5-year work program. Both Cotton Lake Road and North Barth Road are rural neighborhood streets and are assumed to have less than 3,000 cars per day. U.S. Highway 29 is functionally classified as a principal rural arterial road with a FDOT 2021 volume of 7,850 average annual daily trips. The Traffic Department had no traffic capacity concerns related to Cotton Lake Road and North Barth or the U.S. Highway 29. Public schools facilities. Based on the public records in Escambia County, the assigned schools that service this area are Molino Park Elementary, Ernest Ward Middle, and Northview High School. The future land use RC, it allows 2 dwelling units per acre, which calculates at 174 single-family homes. But as you heard, they're not actually proposing that, but that's what the calculations are. So the school board has provided a level of service analysis, and the further review, once the project is submitted, it will be reviewed again. For the impact on the land use, the current agricultural FLU is intended for routine agricultural and silviculture related activities and very low density residential uses. The future land use allows for commercial activities limited to those endeavors ancillary to agricultural and silviculture pursuits or in support of agricultural activities, such as seed, feed, and food outlets, farm equipment and repair, and veterinarian services. For the proposed rural community RC, future land use, it's intended to recognize the existing residential development and neighborhoods serving non-residential activities while still supporting new development through a compact development pattern that serves the rural and agricultural areas in Escambia County. The residential density of RC is 2 dwelling units an acre with the maximum intensity of 0.25 floor area ratio. Impacts to wetlands. Based on the GIS wellhead protection areas, the parcel is not within a wellhead protection area, and the future land use amendment wouldn't impact the wellhead areas. impact in historical significant sites. The applicant provided comments from the Division of the Historical Resources, who identified 10 historic sites, which include one structure, a cemetery, a bridge, and a resource group, which is the Alabama-Florida Railroad, in the designated area, which we will forward to the state. Once a project is submitted for review, if the proposed development does not impact the railway, then it may be determined that there would be no adverse impact. Impact to the natural environment. Out of the 3 parcels, the majority of the wetlands is on the 2 to the south. The applicant didn't provide a wetland survey, but provided information from the National Wetlands Inventory Map showing a portion of the properties containing wetlands. The applicant does understand that any impacts to wetlands would require permitting from any local, state, and federal agencies and may require a more in-depth assessment by the agencies involved. However, if any portion of the wetlands are proposed to be developed, the developer states they will mitigate, restore, or enhance the area for the loss of any wetlands. Urban sprawl. The proposed future land use amendment would discourage urban sprawl from the characteristics of the existing development pattern of the already developed area and would promote mixed use in the urban areas with compatible development consisting of 4-acre parcels. The adopted level of service are required to be maintained for the proposed subdivision development. If the amendment is approved, the parcel must go through a quasi-judicial rezoning process. The completed application packet will then be reviewed and evaluated for concurrency. The applicant also stated that the development on the site would result in the roadways that meet the Escambia County Engineering Manual specifications for roadways. And they provided a letter from Molina Utilities for potable water, and due to the lack of sewer connections, septic tanks would be utilized. Any new proposed project will be required to meet the current regulations as it relates to the availability of public services to support the requested densities and intensities. And that's in the staff findings.
All right, thank you. Did any of the board members have questions for staff at this time? All right. And let me make sure I've got my right stack of cards here. We do have some speakers. Again, this is another case that will have a flu amendment change and also a rezoning hearing. And I see on here that I believe all of you have indicated you may want to speak at both, or you may want to speak at one or the other, but we'll just, we'll start with our first speaker, Joseph Jurek. If you'll please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Our next speaker is Joanne Permoskowitz. I don't know if I'm saying that right. All right.
I was just,
If you'll just state your name and address, please,
Joanne
ma'am.
Permowitz, 1404 Lake Heights Road, Molino. I was just concerned about the type of homes that they were putting on the 4 acres, if there'll be any restrictions. Would be mobile homes or anything like that. I'd be interested in that.
Gotcha.
Is
All
there a
right.
proposal on that?
Thank you. All right. Our next speaker is it Mary Morey? If you'll just come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mary Norrie. I live at 1233 Barth Road. Just concerning listening a little bit more about what's going on with the community, with them putting a community in this area, starting from Cotton Lake all the way up. So really wanting to get better understanding, is this also going to relate into Barth also, because Barth is also a agriculture area. So I would like to hear a little bit more about what's really going on to see if everything is going to reflect into Barth.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So we've got no other speakers at this time. Are there, the board members have any questions for the applicant and or staff? No? All right. At this time, I'd entertain a motion if anyone has one.
I'd like to give the applicant a chance maybe to respond to what they've heard.
Sure.
And let us hear that.
Yep.
Okay, Susan Salamone, 501 Comandancia Street. Regarding the question about mobile homes, no, there will not be mobile homes in this development. It is going to be custom homes on an average of 7 to 8 acres. It's not going to be tract homes. It's going to be a very nice rural community. There will be developing green spaces, infrastructure throughout the neighborhood. And I didn't really understand the question regarding Barth. The property is near and around Barth Road, so I assume it will be included in this development. Okay. I'm not the developer, so I don't know exactly.
Yeah. Just to address that, because I don't want this to be said, and these meetings, certain things, people, they try to hold you to it. Now, each specific property owner has the right, basically, to address their property. Now, if the owner has some property in this specific property that's close to somebody that's in Barth, he can only address his property. Now, there could be what his development cannot cause an enormous impact on that adjacent or contiguous property, but this property does not necessarily, this specific project does not necessarily have to include any properties in Barth if the owner does not own any properties in Barth. You understand what I'm saying? So each development must stand on its own. And any type of good developer, which I know these people, they want to make sure that their development don't have an enormous impact, a negative impact on the surrounding areas. But they're going to make sure that their property we're going to make sure their proposal meet all of the standards so that they won't have no negative impact as far as stormwater and things like that. But as far as changing, unless he has some properties in that area, he don't have to basically deal with that at this time. You understand?
Thank you, Horace. Any other questions? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask one, and maybe for the county, again, this is a future land use, a small scale amendment. It would pave a way and large scale, I'm sorry. I'm thinking, see, I need the help, for the potential rezoning case. However, I just want to make sure that the speakers, my recollection is that, especially for the rezoning, because it's quasi judicial, that if they speak here, they will then be allowed to speak in front of the county commissioners. Does the same hold true for the future land use? It does or does not?
For the future land use categories, for these small scale and large scale amendment, these are more or less legislative in nature. Although they do not speak, if they don't speak in these small scale and large scale, they still have the opportunity to speak at the BCC. But for the rezonings, they do not. But for these legislative proceedings, they can, so more people can come and speak if they need to.
Thank you. And I just wanted to clarify for those speaking that the chair isn't ignoring you. I think some of the questions being brought up are probably more geared towards the actual rezoning case that we haven't gotten to yet. But.
Yes. And I did, the property owner, Eli Miller did fill out a form. I don't know if you'd like to speak at this time or wait for the rezoning, but.
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Eli Miller, 3980 Highway 97, Molina, Florida. I just kind of want to put the residents at ease because there is a county picture that's a little bit misleading. This is everything north of North Barth Road, not South Barth Road. So there is some rezoning signs posted at South Barth that is not the subject parcel. It is everything from North Barth Road north to said Pine Barren Road. Actually, Pine Barren does not go east of Highway 29, but that line, if you just kept Pine Barren Road going. So it is not in Barth Heights. Grew up there in the Molina area, very familiar with where most of you guys live. Just want to put your mind at ease. It is North Barth Road north, not South Barth Road where the county had the signs. So it's a little bit misleading, just putting your mind at ease of where the subject parcel we're actually referring to is.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we've got nothing else. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we'll move on to our third, a public hearing concerning the review of an ordinance amending the future land use map SSA 2023-04 that the board review and recommend to the Board of County Commissioners for adoption an ordinance amending the future land use map for a small scale amendment SSA 2023-04. All right. At this time, I guess we'll go over the aerials and photography.
Yes. Again, Allison Lindsay, Urban Planner Development Services. So this is the location map showing the location on 9 Mile Road. This is the 500-foot radius showing the parcel currently zoned commercial. I'm sorry, future land use. And this is also the future land use commercial. I'm getting confused this morning myself. Okay, this is the proposed future land use for mixed use urban. And this is the aerial photography of the site. And this is the public hearing sign that was posted on Sandpiper. This is looking east onto the subject site from Sandpiper. And this is looking north from the property on Sandpiper. Sorry, I can't read it. This is looking east from the site across Sandpiper. This is the public hearing sign that was posted on 9 Mile Road. And this is looking onto the subject property from 9 Mile. Looking south across 9 Mile from the subject site. And this is looking west along 9 Mile Road from the subject property. That's actually toward Copter. This is looking southeast on 9 Mile Road from the site. And that's all the maps and photographies.
All right, thank you. Meredith, let's see, you've got a form filled out here. Did you want to add anything about the application at this point, or?
Meredith Bush, 125 East Intendencia. We have received staff's findings and are in agreement with them. I'm happy to go through
Okay.
our material that we submitted, but feel like we're consistent with the code and comprehensive plan. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
All right. We do not have any speakers for this case. And with the applicants in agreement with staff's findings, we could run this as an expedited case if the board so wishes.
So moved.
All right. So that was a motion to approve the application.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, at this time, we're going to adjourn the Escambia County Planning Board regular meeting.
And Chairman, if you
Yes.
don't mind, taking a quick break, that way I can get the court reporter set up for the rezoning.
All good. And so we'll start the Escambia County Planning Board rezoning meeting here in about 5 minutes.
Can you tell me it's Lindsay?
It's going currently, it's 40 houses. And I'm just trying to help you out.
I'm so glad you told me.
If it don't go
I'm sure I can
public,
find out.
if it's sold as surplus tenant property to a developer such as, but such as myself, and someone can come in there and put 40 houses on it, and you get no say in what kind of houses they are. If it goes public, you got these communities there, you get to the planning board, if you're gonna be the loudest voice, you're gonna get the most say in what happens to that, because now it's public, you are the public, you get to say what happens, at least have a big part in it, in the community, as to what type of facility it is. But your word of advice is they weren't able to convert it, the county then sent it to surplus property, and the developer such as myself picks it up with the highest bidder, and I can put 40 houses on the floor. It's on, medium density residential, which is similar to the per acre, it was 4 acre piece. Not, they couldn't get rezoned that, for high density, and put apartments on it.
Nice, I'm sure. Yeah, I've got another one.
So, again, I'm not trying to like talk you out of it, but I'm just butting in and telling you about.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what we did, we're like, we're updating. Well, thank you for this.
They are.
And it's a whole.
Yes, because this is the planning board. Okay. This is when, the Board of Adjustment. This goes to the ECC. The Board of Adjustment is not shop.
But even those, even the biggest ones, you can write a big enough check and they can go away. But the county is the least likely to even want to touch those trees. They'll work around those trees. If it goes public, you guys have the most say in that.
People are coming in on that one.
Yes, I mean, believe me, that is just my. I've been accused of being the tree killer. And you don't like it.
But seriously.
Seriously, the views are hard.
County then no longer, they're not just going to property, they can't do anything with it, they're going to sell it. As surplus properties, they do it all the time. I don't know. But I do know the zoning, I do know the land development pretty well. And, just want to give you my 2 cents. The best thing for you guys is for it to go public.
I said, if it was a community center, that's all, I just was concerned about what type of community center.
Oh, thank you. I got Lindsay right, because I asked how to spell that.
Yep. You will have the most voice of how it's policed and governed if it goes public.
Absolutely. I said that. Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
If it doesn't, and it gets sold to a developer, we have no say. So just,
Developer buying everywhere, it's a deal hard.
I mean, that's the reality where we are right now.
That's why I came to meetings, to get the facts.
Again, it's not really my place, I just want to give you, yep. I felt like that may be the case once where they lived, where they're at. I knew that North could be where it was, truly where it was, they wouldn't care.
All right, round two. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Escambia County Planning Board for April 4th, 2023 is hereby called to order with 6 members present. We do have a quorum. Just a reminder to turn off all electronic devices. Did we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, sir.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to waive the reading of the legal advertisement.
Second.
Got a motion by Tim and a second by Eric. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, the rezoning meeting minutes from the previous meeting date of March 7th, 2023 were previously provided. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the rezoning meeting minutes into evidence.
So moved.
A motion by Eric,
Second.
second by Reed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. The rezoning hearing package for April 4th, 2023 with findings of facts has been provided to the board members. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the rezoning hearing package for findings of fact and the legal advertisement into evidence. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion by Eric,
Second.
second by William. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Motion carries. Will the court reporter, let's see, please swear in members of staff?
Do you swear the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right. The board has previously qualified staff to offer expert testimony in the area of land use and planning. Does anyone have any questions regarding their qualifications and ability to offer expert testimony? Okay. At this hearing, the planning board is acting under its authority to hear and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on rezoning applications. These hearings are quasi-judicial in nature. Quasi-judicial hearings are like evidentiary hearings in a court of law, however less formal. All testimony will be given under oath, and anyone testifying before the planning board may be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits that the planning board considers will be entered into evidence and made part of the record. Opinion testimony will be limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence in the record. Before making a decision, the planning board will consider the relevant testimony, the exhibits entered into evidence, and applicable law. Each individual who wishes to address the planning board must complete a speaker request form and submit it to the planning board clerk. These forms are on the table in the back of the boardroom. You will not be allowed to speak until we receive a completed form. Please note that only those individuals who are present and give testimony on the record at this hearing before the planning board will be allowed to speak at the subsequent hearing before the Board of County Commissioners. No new evidence can be presented at the Board of County Commissioners meeting. Therefore, all testimony and evidence must be presented today. Planning Board will provide a recommendation for each rezoning request to the BCC, which will review testimony, documents, and exhibits, consider the closing arguments, and make a final decision. All decisions by the BCC are final. Anyone who wishes to seek judicial review of the decision of the BCC must do so in a court of competent jurisdiction within 30 days of the date the BCC approves or rejects the recommended order of the planning board. all written or oral communications outside of this hearing with members of the planning board regarding matters under the consideration today are considered ex parte communications. Ex parte communications are presumed prejudicial under Florida law and must be disclosed as provided in BCC Resolution number 96-13. As each case is heard, the chair will ask that any board member who has been involved in any ex parte communication please identify themselves and describe the communication. As required by Section 2-7.2 of the Escambia County Land Development Code, the Planning Board's recommendation to the BCC shall include consideration of the following 6 approval conditions. The applicant has a burden of presenting competent substantial evidence to the reviewing board establishing that the requested zoning district would contribute to or result in a logical and orderly development pattern. The appropriate surrounding area within which uses and conditions must be considered may vary with those uses and conditions and is not necessarily the same area required for mailed notifications. A logical and orderly pattern shall require demonstration of each of the following conditions, consistent with the comprehensive plan, that the proposed zoning is consistent with the future land use FLU category as prescribed in LDC Chapter 3 and with all other applicable goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. If the rezoning is required to properly enact a proposed FLU amendment transmitted for state agency review, the proposed zoning is consistent with the proposed FLU and conditional to its adoption. That it's consistent with zoning and district provisions. The proposed zoning is consistent with the purpose and intent and with any zoning establishment provisions prescribed by the proposed district in chapter, it got cut off here, so I'm not sure what chapter, chapter 3. Awesome. Compatibility with surroundings. All of the permitted uses of the proposed zoning, not just those anticipated by the rezoning applicant, are compatible as defined in chapter 6. With the surrounding uses, the uses of any surrounding undeveloped land shall be considered the permitted uses in the applicable district. Compatibility is not considered with potential conditional uses or with any non-conforming or unimproved uses. Also, in establishing the compatibility of a residential use, there is no additional burden to demonstrate the compatibility of specific residents or activities protected by fair housing laws. Appropriate if spot zoning, where the proposed zoning would establish or reinforce a condition of spot zoning as defined in Chapter 6, the isolated district would nevertheless be transitional in character between the adjoining districts, or the difference with those districts would be minor or sufficiently limited. The extent of these mitigating characteristics or conditions demonstrates an appropriate site-specific balancing of interest between the isolated district and adjoining lands. Appropriate with changed or changing conditions. If the land uses or development conditions within the area surrounding the property of rezoning have changed, the changes are to such a degree in character that it is in the public interest to allow new uses, densities, or intensities in the area through rezoning. And the permitted uses of the proposed district are appropriate and not premature for the area or likely to create or contribute to sprawl. At the beginning of each case, as long as there's no objections from the applicant, we will allow staff to briefly present the location and zoning maps, photos for the property. Next, we will hear from the applicant and any witnesses that they may have. Then we will hear from staff and any witnesses they may have. Finally, we will hear from the members of the public who have filled out a speaker request form. All right, so we'll move into our first case today, and that is case number Z-2023-05. The applicant is Escambia County Development Services Department, agent for Escambia County. Address is 8800 North 9th Avenue. Property size is 4.07 plus or minus acres. This is a request from medium density residential district, 10 dwelling units per acre, to public district dwelling unit density limited to vested residential development. All right. Let's see. Members of the board, have there been any ex parte communication between you and the applicant, of the applicant's agents, attorneys, or witnesses with fellow planning board members or anyone from the general public prior to this hearing? Have you visited this subject property, please also disclose if you or a relative or business associate of the applicant or the applicant's agent. And we will start with, Stephen, we'll start with you.
No to all.
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 All right, great. Thank you. Staff, was notice of the hearing sent to all interested parties?
Yes, sir.
All right, was notice of the hearing posted on the subject property?
Yes, sir.
All right, staff will now present the maps and photographies for case Z 2023-05.
Thank you, Chair and Board. This is John Fisher, Senior Planner for Development Services. You see on your screen there, this is the wetlands and location map. This is the current zoning of MDR, Medium Density Residential. This is the proposed zoning map to public. This is the current future land use map of mixed-use urban. This is the aerial map. And this is just an aerial map zoomed out a little more. Public hearing signs posted on the property. Public hearing sign looking north onto the subject property. This is looking northeast onto the subject property with the building to the right. Looking east at the end of 9th Avenue. Looking south along 9th Avenue. Looking northwest from the end of 9th Avenue at the Ellison Retention Pond to the west of the property. And this is the zoning application there. All right, with that, I can go ahead and go into the findings if you like.
Yep.
All right. All right, under criteria A, consistent with the comprehensive plan. For development consistencies, future land use category, new development and redevelopment in built areas, staff found that the proposed amendment to public is consistent with the intent and purpose of the future land use category as stated in CPP Future Land Use 1.3.1. The current future land use change from mixed-use urban to public will be, as well, showing the future land use case there as well will be heard at the Public Commissioners meeting on May 4, 2023 before this rezoning case. The parcel will also be consistent. Roads and infrastructure existing. Any future development must go through development review process and meet all current standards. Under criteria B, consistent with the Land Development Code, the proposed amendment to rezone the public is consistent with the intent and purpose of the Land Development Code. The applicant is requesting public zoning designation for one parcel totaling 4.07 acres. The current zoning for the parcel is medium density residential, MDR. The proposed zoning change to public has a density of 0 with no residential uses allowed within the public zoning district. Parcels to the west have already established non-residential uses, such as a stormwater pond and a commerce park. The rest of the surrounding area is single-family houses. The public district zoning establishes appropriate areas and land use regulations for public government agencies and public institution uses within urban areas. The primary intent of the district is to establish appropriate areas and land use regulations for publicly owned parcels with public uses generally having greater potential for adverse offsite impacts. Under criteria C, compatible with surroundings, the proposed amendment is compatible with the surrounding existing residential uses in the area. Within 500 feet radius area, staff identify properties within the zoning district 8 CLI, heavy commercial light industrial, and MDR. The existing uses within 500-foot buffer area have a mix of non-residential uses and residential uses. There's a predominantly residential pattern to the north, south, and east. Under criteria D, appropriate with spot zoning, under staff's findings, it was determined that the proposed public zoning would be considered spot zoning based on the definition, but the request to rezone from MDR to public will make the parcels consistent with the future land use of public. The public zoning would be compatible with the residential properties and commercial properties in the area that's already developed as a transitional zoning and public government agency need for the community. Under criteria E, appropriate changed and changed conditions, the land uses or development conditions within the area surrounding the property rezoning has not changed at this time. That includes all staff's findings. Thank you.
All right, does anybody from the board have any questions for staff at this time? All right, for those members of the public who wish to speak on this matter, please note that the planning board bases its decisions on the approval conditions and exceptions described in section 2-7.2 of the Escambia County Land Development Code. During our deliberations, the planning board will not consider general statements of support or opposition. Accordingly, please limit your testimony to the approval conditions and exceptions described in section 2-7.2. Please also note that only those individuals who are present and give testimony on the record at this hearing before the planning board will be allowed to speak at the subsequent hearing before the BCC. All right, and I do have some of the forms from the last case. They did indicate both cases on their forms. I've got Robin Becker, I think. Okay, great. Yeah. So Robin, if you'll just come forward, please state your full name and address for the record and be sworn in.
R-O-B-I-N, yes. Yes. First name is Robin, last name is Becker. I live at 4311 Burtonwood Drive. And I'm here at the hearings today just to see what's going on because I live right in that area and any changes would directly impact my particular property and my neighborhood. So speaking at this particular section, so I have the opportunity potentially to speak at the subsequent. And that's all I have for today. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next, we've got Jeff Mazer. Is Jeff still here? I think maybe left. And then we've got James Trad.
Trad, T-R-A-D. I do. My name's James Trad, 4311 Burtonwood. I recently moved to the area. I really like the neighborhood. I noticed that there's a lot of community centers in the city, and I'm just kind of concerned about where this thing is going to go. I think you're inviting a lot of weekend traffic into a residential neighborhood. I'm not too sure why you guys bought the property, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. I think that's all the speakers I have on this case. Oh, we do. Oh, I didn't see you sitting back there. I thought you had left. All right. We'll get you back up here, Ms. Henderson.
Yes, D-E-M-E-T-R-A, Demetra Henderson. Sure. Yes. Demetra Henderson, 4320 Burtonwood Drive. I just want to speak on behalf of, since we've met earlier, for as a concern with the community center. I know the county is not into development for its homes and apartments, and that would be for a developer. My question is concerning that if the county is going to have this community center, I do have some questions and some concerns on that. I was kind of jotting down some questions that I want to ask. First one, is this going to be a gated community? It's meaning that it would be locked and secured when the center is not in use, providing that it would become this community center. That would be my concern on that. I don't know if you have the answers to those questions that I'm asking now, but this is just some general questions that would be a concern, I'm quite sure, for all the homeowners as well. Gated locked community, the gates to be locked, security lighting. Again, there's no security lighting back there now, just was on the church itself, which was the church. That's the only lighting that's there. And right now, that light is not even lit up at night. So might be my concern too on that. would that be also the question I have on the hours of operation of the community center itself? I know Noise Anointed in the county, in Escambia County, is 10 o'clock PM. That would be another big concern. And depending on what the type of event that the county would be wanting to lease this out to the public as well, the type of events it would be, or so forth on that. I know you all spoke earlier also about the interest on 9th, which they had right into the current facility that it is now. There would be no sidewalks or anything at this time. My concern is right now, the county needs to maintain the exterior of that. It's not being maintained on the back side of Hartstone, where you go directly into the center itself. So that would be a biggest concern with traffic there as well. And then if the county owns that, maintains that, then will the county maintain the center grounds as well throughout the duration of that time? That would be a largest big concern of that. Okay. We talked about the hours of operations. The HOA. We do have a HOA there, a very strong, active HOA there as well. I know I was speaking about the HOA would possibly want to be involved with it, of course, or even just the homeowners who's not on the board. Where would the homeowners take place at being part of that on the board or a committee with the county of having a lot of inputs on the type of use or rentals that it would be for the public? That would be another concern. And the type of traffic, again, that would be brought through there. But if the grounds are not maintained now, as you come in through from Johnson to 9th, then the county owns that, then my concern would be how would the county continue to maintain that facility in the grounds, which is 4.7 acres? Not just the area that you're talking about using, which is what, 1.04, I think you all said, if I'm not
ma'am.
mistaken.
And-
That would be my biggest concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And I would just say, at this time, for what our purpose is up here is to look at those 5 conditions that we ran through earlier and see if someone that's coming before us for a rezoning has met those conditions or not, as we have our discussion on it to keep the zoning the same or to move to what the applicant has requested. So I think a lot of those concerns that you brought forward are good concerns, and I think that there's probably, depending on how this goes, if this moves forward, that there are steps in the process to address those, and I would suggest if this was to move forward, to contact your county commissioner, which I believe this is in District 4, Commissioner Bender's office, to kind of walk through some of those concerns with him, and maybe even invite him to the homeowners association meeting to discuss some of those things. What, is that the development of the property, if this gets the zoning they're requesting, that process is a little further down the road, but that would be a good time to address all those concerns, which I think are valid, that you brought up.
And to add a little bit more onto what he was just speaking about, reaching out to neighborhoods. I don't know if this project specifically is going to go under neighborhoods or Parks and Rec, but both of them would be involved in it. And they do take a lot of citizen input when they're doing projects. So you'll have plenty of opportunity, especially with the homeowners association. They do listen to that a lot.
All right, at this time, we have no more public comment. I didn't see any other speaker forms. So does staff, the applicant, have any further comments that you would like to make?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board at this time? I do have one question. We can go back to the staff's finding of facts. I want to say it might have been 3 or 4. Yes. The proposed zoning change to public has a density of 0 with no residential uses allowed within the public zoning district. So am I to read that correctly? And I know there was concerns of from the neighborhood of potentially housing people at this property for any sort of thing. I just want to, on the record, make it clear that as we have here, that there's, density of 0 with no residential uses allowed within the public zoning district, that this wouldn't be a facility where people would be housed or living.
So under the future land use and the zoning, both of them have a 0 residential use allowed.
Okay.
So no dwellings.
Microphone.
John stated, and that goes for housing or lodging of homeless shelters, all of those things. John is absolutely correct. This is just public use, and that there are other zoning categories that allow for that, but these two categories, it does not.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to get that on the record. Anybody else?
I'm about to say, and there's also, especially if it sounds like it's going to public like this and it's going to parks essentially, there are other rules that govern when you can be on that property. So that's one thing a lot of people don't realize in our community, especially. There's sundown, you shouldn't be around there. That's just reality with it. So we have some laws and regulations that help stop any of that.
All right. Is there anybody else? Anything? All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
All right. William with motion to approve the rezoning change.
Second.
Reed with a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to our second case, Z-2023-06. Applicant is Susan Solomon, agent for Pine Barren Creek Estates, LLC owner. Address is 10,000 South Century Boulevard, block 1000 North Highway 29 block, US 95 at North Barth Road. Property size 349.24 plus or minus acres. And this is a request from Agricultural District, 1 dwelling unit per 20 acres, to Rural Residential District, 1 dwelling unit per 4 acres. Members of the board, have there been any ex parte communication between you, the applicant, or the applicant's agents, attorneys, or witnesses with fellow planning board members or anyone from the general public prior to the hearings? Have you visited the subject property? And please also disclose if you or a relative or business associate of the applicant or the applicant's agents.
No to all?
No to all.
No to all.
No to all.
Very familiar with the property. My company owns the property across Highway 29. I'm responsible for that property, but no ex parte communication, and I can exercise my responsibility objectively.
Thank you.
And no to all.
All right. Great. Staff, will you now present the maps and photographs for case Z 2023-06?
Yes, Allison Lindsay, Urban Planner, Development Services. This is a location map showing the 3 parcels off Highway 29. And this is the zoning map showing the parcels are agricultural. This is the future land use map showing agricultural. And this is the proposed future land use of rural community. This is the wetlands map for the parcels. And this is an aerial view of the subject properties. This is the public hearing sign on 29 in Barth. Looking west from 29 in Barth. Looking south along 29. This is looking east. This is the public hearing sign that was posted at the intersection of Cotton Lake Road and Highway 29. It's looking north from Cotton Lake and Highway 29. Looking across Highway 29 at the intersection of Cotton Lake and 29. This is the public hearing sign that's posted on Cotton Lake Road. Looking north at a portion of the site from Cotton Lake. This is looking south from the subject property across Cotton Lake Road. This is looking east on Cotton Lake, looking west along Cotton Lake. This is another public hearing sign that was posted on Highway 29 and Pine Barren Road. This is looking across Highway 29. And this is looking south along 29, the southernmost portion of the properties on Highway 29 and Pine Barren. And this is the northern property. It's looking east down Pine Barren Road and looking southwest from Pine Barren and 29. And that's the maps and photographies.
Thank you. Would the applicant or the representative please come forward? All right. You are a lawyer, so we don't have to get you sworn in. But I guess will you please state your name though and address for the record?
Susan Salamone, 501 Comandancia Street, and the applicant has no objection to the staff findings.
All right, sounds good. And you did receive a copy of the rezoning hearing package with the findings of fact, and I'm assuming you're in agreement with those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you. I will say I do not believe anyone stuck around to speak. We did have some forms here, so I'm just going to kind of read through these real quick. Mary Smith did not wish to speak, was against. Reverend Robert Taylor did not wish to speak, was in favor. We had some others. I think they were here earlier, just wanted to get more information. They did not indicate whether or not they were in favor or not. So those are the only forms that we received. So I would say we've got an applicant that's in agreement with staff's findings of facts, and if the board so wishes, we can move along with the expedited process.
So moved to approve.
All right, approval motion by Reed. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by William. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion carries.
Chair, clarification for
Yes,
staff.
sir.
These filled out forms, do they buy a place to speak, or don't they have to be sworn and
Yes,
speak
sir.
here?
If it's during the quasi judicial, they would need to speak here to speak on the rezoning.
Okay.
However, if they were to speak on the large scale, then they could do so.
Right. I just
Yes.
wanted to ask that question to go on record in case they're surprised if they show up
Yes, sir.
at BCC. They don't have the opportunity to speak.
And two of those noted they did not want to speak, and the others indicated in the regular meeting they were here for more information. I think they got most of their questions answered by the property owner, but I'm glad you did say that. All right. So we do not have any further cases for the day. Is there anything from staff or attorney's office going forward?
I'll just say that next month, the next meeting will be May 2nd, 8:30 a.m. Right now I have 2 rezonings, 2 future land uses. A joint land use study should be coming as well, with possibly 2 reports from the county. Please let me know if you'll be in attendance.
Sounds good. Well, I think that's pretty much all we've got for today. Tim, welcome back. Good to have you here, and we stand adjourned.
Well done, Chair.
Yeah, Tim, I think Wayne's can be the tough end of the stick here.